This is my story, getting into combat sports, and in particular, how I became the coach that I am today. If you go back a long, long time ago, I started fighting and doing those type of combat sports when I was 5 years old. When I was 4, I watched movies like Kung Fu Panda. I watched movies like Karate Kid, the old school ones. We're talking about the 1971s and 1981s, you know, the Miyagis and all that, you know? We're watching all those old school stuff. And at that point, one of the movies that really got me like, yo, like I wanna fight, I wanna be like this kid was the Karate Kid from Jaden Smith. Now, when you look back at that movie, you're like, that movie was not it or whatever. It was not as good as the original Karate Kids, but you know, you're a kid, so you kind of look at it as like, this black kid, I kind of want to be like him and whatnot. Jaden Smith low-key was cool in that movie. And in that movie, like Kung Fu was a big thing. So I was telling my parents for like the longest time, and I don't know how long it was, but I remember vividly asking my parents like, yo, like I want to do sport, I want to do like fighting, I want to do Kung Fu, I want to do that. And I didn't know what boxing was or karate was or taekwondo was, but in the movie, Kung Fu was the big thing. You know, you had the guy with the red gi and you had Jaden Smith with the white gi, and you're like, yo, this is the good guy, the bad guy, all this, you know what I mean? And my parents, I remember they were trying to find a place for me to start at Kung Fu and all that. I guess they never really found one, but at that point, karate was low-key kind of a big thing. There was 2 karate places I remember vividly. So there's one that was like a little bit more commercialized and like easygoing, kind of like the American karate. Oh, like you'll come here, you'll learn karate, and the sensei is nice and all this, and you know, he'll just learn his techniques, he'll do his katas and all that, and it'll be all softcore. My parents are like, you know, I don't know how tough my kid is or anything like that, but if I'm gonna put my kid in a sport like fighting, like I want him to learn how to defend himself. Like I'm not here to just give me like a fake self-confidence and all that. So they went to the second karate school, which was in this gym, like this commercial gym. So it was this guy, his name is Chuck Below. Shout out to him, he was a great coach. He was giving these classes at this like YMCA, if you want to really think about it. And he was giving them for low-key kind of cheap, so it was accessible. And the first day I remember, the classes were like together. Like you had the black belts, the brown belts, the purple belts, all the belts all together. And I was 5 years old, small little kid. If you guys think I'm small now, imagine how small I was when I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, you know? I see all these kids, and first class, he's teaching me, you know, all these respect things, like how to bow before the classes, bow in front of here, respect your opponent, all this. And I'm here like, I want to learn how to fight, you get what I mean? I'm learning that this is a whole different sport, a whole different game that I was expecting. So I learned a lot through my first few years of doing karate, that this is a whole different thing that I was not expecting at all. Respect was something I learned really early on in fighting sports, because my sensei used to say, you're gonna learn all these big moves that are dangerous for the streets, like kicking, like punching, like throwing people down, taking them down, all this, all that. He was one of those senseis. Like he didn't want to teach karate as a sport. He wanted to teach karate like in terms of how to defend yourself. And I respect that. I respect him for that, because I'm like, now I feel, I was like, even as a kid, I was feeling confident in defending myself if ever something happened, right? But even till this day, the lessons that he's teaching me, like I still remember that, you know what I mean? I'm out here learning. It was just a good time, honestly. Now, one of the guys that I met from this class, this guy called Baldan. Baldan was a guy that was a little bit older than me, like a year older, and he used to always be in the classes, but he would always ask like questions and questions and questions. And I always had like I was always scared to ask questions. Like even in school, I always used to be scared of asking questions. But in karate, like I used to have questions and I used to never ask them, but he would always like kind of like take the question out of my mouth. Pause. I found him like as a cool person to kind of be around. He low-key made karate fun. Another person that I met from these classes was this guy called Thomas. Thomas, who I'm going to talk about later as well. I started boxing with him and I grew up with him. We did karate together and he was kind of like a goofball. So I learned that in life sometimes, you know, you can be serious about a sport, right? But, you know, some of the kids that are with you, you know, they're not going to take it as seriously as you. You know what I mean? But they're just here to have a good time and joke around and just kind of make the classes a little bit more fun. And I appreciate Thomas for that, because, you know, I found Thomas really cool for kind of giving a different vibe in the classes. A lot of lessons and a lot of people that I met, but those are 2 people that I wanted to like really talk about in this video of my life and my story before I even get into all the lessons and everything that I learned in karate. So my first ever tournament that I did in karate, I didn't even know what was going on. Like, I think the sensei, he just told me, yo, you got a tournament next week. the inscription's like $30, you know, ask your dad if you want to go. And I was like, okay, well, I got nothing to do on a Saturday, so might as well just go to this tournament, right? So I go to this tournament, I have no clue what's going on, and I lose. I didn't win a single medal, but my dad was like, my dad was never like the sporty type of guy. He always told me like, just do your best and have fun. That's always the most important thing. And I had a lot of fun doing that tournament. I didn't win anything, but I had a lot of fun. And I think that was very important for me as a kid, to just have fun. I was looking around and I was like, man, some of these kids are winning medals. Like, what are these prizes? So I wanted to win these prizes, and I wanted to get better so I can get like a gold medal or something. Because I felt like that was super cool that these kids got to fight more in this tournament against other kids, and they were better. You know, I never understood that in my training, that I could do that. So then I started getting interested about just getting better. So then I started taking it seriously. This is around the age of 6 or 7. Every single aspect of the sport. I'm talking like, my coach would tell me, well, in this case, in karate, he's a sensei. He would tell me, oh, do this a certain way. Do your straight punch like this. Do your jab this way. Do your hook this way. Do your head kick this way. Do all of this way. I'm like, all right, bet. I'll do anything that you tell me, because like, I want to win these tournaments. And I started winning some tournaments. I remember the first feeling that I got when I won a gold medal. I felt so proud of myself, and my parents were happy that I won, you get what I mean? So I just wanted to keep on winning and winning and winning, because that was a crazy feeling that I had on me, that I wanted to keep on going and going and going. I kept doing good. I kept getting up like my belts. Like I went from white belt to yellow belt to orange belt, all the way up to brown belt. And I think I was around the age of 11. And after brown belt is a black belt. So it was like kind of like the ultimate test before like a master of the sport. Because black belt is kind of like, what they were trying to tell you was that black belt was like the pinnacle, you get what I mean? Like of the sport. Like if you get the black belt, like then the real doors start opening up. Like you could really get good, and people start respecting you because you have a black belt. So I wanted to get this black belt, because I'm like, I dedicated a certain period of my time into the sport since I was young. So I was like, might as well just do it all the way through. And my coach, he tells me like, yo, I cannot bring you to this black belt, but I know some people that could bring you to this black belt. So I go to this gym in Côte Saint-Luc, this karate dojo or whatever. I learned from this lady called Melanie, and she was a good person, but she took the sport kind of like, well, she took the art of karate, of defending yourself that Chuck teach me, into like more of a sport. So we used to do these things called katas all the time, and like all this elegant type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is all cool and beautiful, but how does this apply in like logically in the sport aspect of it all? And I just always kept having like kind of like little arguments about it to her, because she never really understood my point of view. She was just like, well, you know, karate is a sport, you gotta respect it, and it's an art, so you can't just like do all the street fighting stuff and like try to knock people out and blah, blah, blah. And I just never really understood it. And I remember going to a tournament at 12 years old. I'm seeing openings, like his chin's open, his face is open and whatnot. And in tournaments, you're not allowed to knock people out in karate, which is kind of a weird thing, but whatever. It's just something about karate, I guess. I remember head kicking this guy in the face, and I knocked him out, and they disqualified me. And I was like, yo, like what? Like how do you beat someone in a fighting sport, and then all of a sudden you're eliminated all of a sudden? So I never really, at that point I was like, I couldn't take karate seriously. You know, I couldn't see the value that this brought me in the streets or in general. Like I just couldn't see the value in it. So I was like, man, this sport is kind of not for me anymore. But I think also a part of me was like, I didn't have fun anymore chasing this black belt, because I was like, I didn't see any value in it. So I went back to my coach, Chuck, who was my original sensei. I remember that he had like, at that point he had like a really small class. I think we used to be like 20 kids, so a lot of my friends were there. But at that point I remember going back, and there's only 3 kids. So a lot of my friends were just gone. So then even there, I wasn't even having fun anymore. And I think a lot of my friends at that point were going to high school and all that. So then you don't want to do karate and all that. You want to kind of move on in life. And one of my friends that was in high school, who I mentioned before, Berdan, I met him when I went to high school, who was a year older. And I asked him like, yo, what you been up to? He tells me, yo, I've been doing this sport called boxing, and I think it's way better than karate. I'm like, what the hell is boxing? Now, mind you, I don't know anything about boxing. I don't know. I only knew about karate and kung fu at this point. He's like, yo, I'll show you, no worries. He was a green belt. I was a brown belt chasing a black belt. So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm way better than this guy fighting, so I should be able to whoop his ass. He puts on gloves, and he puts me on some gloves. He spars me. He completely wipes me out, like makes nosebleeds, the whole shenanigan. He really got me good, you know? So then I got obsessed with the sport a little bit. I'm like, yo, like how'd you beat me? You know what I mean? It tells me like, yo, how about you pull up every single time during dinner time in high school and we just train boxing. I'll teach you how I did it, what to do, like how to do slips, how to do rolls, how to do a punch, all this. And I'm like, all right, bet. Like I wanna be able to beat your ass one day, you get what I mean? So then every single dinner during high school, we used to be right outside, just boxing, just chilling every single time. We just never stopped, every single day. And at one point, we were training with his friend called Zon. And Zon was a cool guy. We used to spar all the time. So then people used to walk right next to us all the time, and they would ask like, yo, like what you guys doing? Like, I wanna try. So people used to ask like, yo, like, can we put my gloves on against my friends and all this? So then one day we said, yeah, let's go. Like, you can put your gloves on and do some sparring, I guess, with your friend. And someone suggested the idea of doing a so-called fight club type of thing. We used to basically get the whole high school like just fighting each other every single dinner time. And used to make these matchups every single dinner time. We'd be like, yo, Divesh against this guy against this guy, this guy against this guy. And it used to go like band for band, like bar for bar, every single dinner time. And it was fun. But then one day, like all things, it has to come to an end. And it got a little too big and a little bit too, disorganized. When that happened, we had to like kind of calm down a little bit, where we had to like kind of tame it and just be like, okay, we got to do it like every 2 weeks or do it once a week type of thing, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of randoms pulling up and a lot of people that are doing bad stuff with the sport. And then the police started getting involved and all that, just to kind of like stop us, and the school started getting involved. That's when I started coming to the gym here at Hard Knox, who's in the background right now, because I was telling myself like, yo, if I can't do it at school with the people that I like, then might as well just do it Berdan, a friend I respect, and I wanted to go to his gym. So I went to Hard Knox every single day at that point, at the age of like 15, 16 years old. Maybe even 14. I would say 14, 15 years old, actually speaking, that I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna pull up to the gym. I was training with my coach, Ibrahim. Luckily enough, I had no job, and Ibrahim was giving free boxing classes for people of a certain age once a week. So I used to pull up for that class, and every single other day I used to train with Baldan, kind of alone with him, shadow boxing, doing the bag and all that. And I used to just grind it out, having fun. So this was my first experience at a boxing gym officially, other than like what was going on behind closed doors, like on the streets, and how, if you want to call it like that, okay? So I was real happy that I got to get that experience. And then I started getting obsessed with the sport of boxing. So I started watching guys like Arturo Gatti, like Floyd Mayweather, like Mickey Ward. And one of the guys that really got me hooked on the sport was Amir Khan. Amir Khan, for many reasons. First of all, he was brown, just like me, and he had fast hands, man. And my whole thing was that since I was a smaller person, everybody used to tell me like, yo, you don't got the power, like you gotta use your speed to advantage and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, this guy looks like me and he got speed, so I'm like, might as well just be a fan of this guy. So I used to like watching Amir Khan a lot. So he low-key got me hooked on the sport, plus with all the other fights that I watched, like for example, Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. That war got me into the sport, and just stuff like that. And I started getting involved and wanting to be like these people that I aspire to be like. We fast forward a little bit, I'm training at this gym, but I'm not taking it too seriously. You know what I mean? Like I'm developing slowly but surely, but I'm not thinking like, okay, like I'm gonna be a pro boxer, I'm gonna be a great amateur boxer or anything like that. I'm kind of just doing it because my friend's doing it. Then all of a sudden, my friend Baldan gets his first fight. And I'm like, oh shit, like my dog got his first fight. So he wins that fight. And I'm like, whoa, like my boy won his fight. He did the whole thing, like walking out, the warm up, the fight itself, and he won it. And he won it really like decisively too. So then I got low-key inspired. I was like, okay, like if he can do it and we train together, then I can do it. And I started working a little bit harder, and I started pushing my pace a little bit. And all of a sudden, COVID hit. Now when COVID hit, that was a whole different ballgame, because now all of a sudden, like, all the gyms are closed. You don't know when everything's gonna open up, all this type of shenanigans. So then you're just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna train at home. So every day I was in the garage and I used to train. Now obviously there's moments where I just wasn't training. Like I was just like too hooked up on the video games and chilling with my friends, because it's COVID, you know, you try to like, you don't know when everything's gonna open up, so you kind of just lose that motivation in yourself. But every once in a while, I always used to think like, when the gyms reopen, I'm back and I'm going harder than ever before. And at some point COVID ended. Let's just say, give or take 1 year. I was 16 years old and I'm 100% getting a fight, no matter what. I come back with my friend Thomas. Now, if you guys remember Thomas, who I mentioned before, was one of my guys, was training with me in karate. Now, Thomas, you would say, oh, like he's the guy that you just said was a clown. But what's funny is that during COVID, I guess Thomas also had a kind of a revelation where he was like, well, we're doing nothing, like might as well just do something, right? So during COVID, we had like, every once in a while, like the government would be like, oh, like you guys had curfews and you guys can hang out at a certain hour together, but then you guys gotta go home after a while and whatnot. So Thomas used to come and train in my garage, because I used to have a boxing bag pretty much every day. And he used to tell me all the time, like, yo, when Hard Knocks opens up, like, yo, tell me and I pull up with you. So I was like, okay, bet. So the guy that I was grinding with was a completely new person. It was not Berdan, it was Thomas, who was in the same boat as me. He had no fights, and he was like, he was just like, I want to do it with you, and I want to get fights just like everybody, like just like Berdan, just like me. And I was like, all right, bet, let's grind it up. So we started grinding every single day. We were at this gym, no questions asked, nonstop, doing the work. When the coaches weren't watching, when the coaches were watching, when the whole gym was here, when there's no people in the gym, we just kept on working and working and working nonstop. And I remember when we did our first group class at Hard Knocks, Herbie, who's the owner of this gym, great coach, by the way, and a great person. We did the class. We went super hard that training session. I remember it was a training session about like just hitting the body and hitting the body, hitting the body. And I was telling Thomas, like, yo, we gotta go hard as shit in this training, because like if we go kind of soft and like just not serious about it, like, yo, bro, like these guys are not gonna take us seriously. So I remember finishing that first group training that Herbie gave. Our arms were all red, dead ass. And yo, he can tell you the exact same thing, okay? It was all red. And Herbie pulled us over after the class, and he said this word verbatim: we're starting competition class with a bunch of young people around y'all ages and a little bit older. Yo, like you guys are invited. And I was like, yo, bet, bro, that's exactly what I wanted. Like I wanted the real boxing, you get what I mean? I didn't want no fitness boxing or something easy. Like I wanted to like see how the pros do it and all that, okay? So I was stoked. And the classes were giving on Tuesday and Thursday. So the first class, and on Saturdays too, actually, now I remember. Saturday was more of a conditioning day. I was going through those classes while working a factory job and all that, and just kind of like balancing all out. As a boxer, you gotta balance all these little things. I remember going to the first competition class and meeting a group of individuals of a variety ages, from ages 14 to all the way up to 23, 25 years old. And I was like, all these guys literally had less than 5 fights. Like there was not a guy with over 5 fights, you know what I mean? And they had a lot of guys with 0 fights that were just kind of grinding it out and just like, kind of like had a revelation during COVID, you know what I'm saying? So I was just there like, okay, this is like my new group of like friends and acquaintances and like people, camaraderie a little bit, you get what I mean? But these are also guys that I'm competing against, because it's like, if I do better than all of these guys, then the coaches, they look at me like, oh, like I'm next up in line to get a fight. So when I was training with these guys, I used to look around and I'm like, ain't nobody gonna do better than me, no matter what. Like it was just a mentality thing in me, and I was there every single day, and I was working hard as shit no matter what, bro. Like nobody could tell me anything. Like I could work forever and ever and ever, and I grinding it out. And I remember doing it for around maybe 2-3 months. Repetition over repetition, doing the conditioning and just competing with the guys. One of the things that was happening during these trainings was like, we would always do jabs, straights, hooks, stepping back, like learning the basics, right? But we never got to really use it in sparring. We used to do drills, but we used to never do sparrings. And at some point I was like, yo, like, we gotta be able to use this in sparring. And I was a very shy guy, so I was never gonna fucking tell my coaches like, yo, like, okay, like I wanna spar and all that, right? So then what I do, funny enough, is the guy filming the video right now. So I ask him, okay, like, yo, like, let's spar, okay? Let's spar, let's film it, and let's do it, you know what I mean? So I go to his gym, and he was going at this gym called Donnybrook, which was not too far from here, maybe like a 10-minute drive. We just go at it, and we filmed it, it was a good spar. I come back to the gym on Saturday after the sparring, and the coach don't tell me a word, but all of a sudden during conditioning, I'm pushing, and then they come up to me, and they're like, yeah, that sparring was good. And I'm like, hey, you guys watched it? Because I actually didn't want him to. I didn't want my boy Baldan, who filmed and pulled up to that sparring, to show the sparring to them, because I actually felt kind of embarrassed and kind of like scared, like what would they think about me sparring, like did I do good or whatnot? Because as a boxer, as a person like doesn't like, before you become like a boxer and all that, like you don't know if your sparrings are good because you don't have enough experience in the game. That was like my real first sparring, you know what I mean? When that happened, I wasn't too sure if I did too good or if they're gonna like it or anything like that, you know? To my surprise, they really liked it. And they were like, this kid has hustle. From that day on, I low-key remember like something switching where they low-key kind of took me a little bit more seriously, and they started putting more time into me, especially Ibrahim, who was my main coach. They started putting the hours more into me. After that sparring, like we used to spar on Saturdays here at the gym. Every single Saturday, we sparred. And I used to spar guys that were 20 pounds heavier than me. I used to spar the national champion that we had at this gym. And the one thing that I remember was that I didn't care what title or how big or who they were. I said to myself that if I want to be something in this sport, well, I gotta get through these people. And I passed the test with maybe not flying colors, but I passed whatever test that I had to do, especially as a person just kind of starting out and just kind of getting my feet like kind of wet and whatnot. I started doing really good in the sparrings. From that sparring alone, I get my first fight. It was a test a little bit. So Hard Knox, they host a charity event for whatever cause that's going on in the world that they feel like, okay, like we need to do charity for. And it's once a year. And we just get guys from the gym kind of just sparring and kind of just putting on a show and whatnot. It can be like anybody, you get what I mean? Most of the time it's the fighters, and we bring another gym with us, and it's just cool little sparring sessions and whatnot. That event in particular, we just kind of made it fun, and it was just like sparrings between guys from the gym, like people that we knew, you know what I mean? Like just like the scientist and the businessman over there, you know, just sparring, and we just kind of knew them. And I was the main event, and I was just warming up, just chilling, and just kind of doing my thing. And I remember looking across, and I was like, okay, that's my opponent. And my opponent was this guy called Shadi. Now Shadi, I hadn't mentioned him yet in my story. Shadi was a guy that I was sparring leading up to this quote-unquote first fight exhibition. I sparred him like 3-4 times, and then he was a guy that was at this gym called TriStar. His coach was Lance Lundy. We used to spar every single Saturday, and it was always a test between each other. We had 0 fights, and we were just kind of getting our experience from each other. And I remember walking in, and all right, let's warm up, let's chill, and just do our thing. And I was anxious about the lead up. Like every single fight that we were getting closer and closer and closer and closer, like my turn's coming. The closer we got, the more excited I got. And I was like, this is my time. This is my time to shine. This is the time to show who the fuck I am. When my time came, I was down the stairs of Hard Knox, just waiting for my name to be called out, and just kind of putting myself in that mode, that fight mode a little bit, okay? And when they announced my name, yo, Divesh Patel from Hard Knox Gym, I remember like putting my hands up, like kind of like, yo, let's hype it up, you know? And I remember just being so excited and so ready because I was so prepared, and I kind of just knew that I was gonna do a good performance that night. Like there was nothing that could stop me from not doing a good performance. Even though I was against my dog Shadi, who also, by the way, he did a great performance himself, you know? And I remember that fight like it was yesterday, like every single exchanges, the moments, the lead up, like everything. And it was something that like that showed me that I kind of belong in the sport of boxing. Like a lot of people, they think they belong in the sport of boxing before even getting a fight or anything like that. But that was like proof to me that even in front of everybody, like where the lights were brightest, in front of all your friends, that I could perform and I didn't care like what's up. Like I knew that I could make it in this sport. It was one good hell of a fight. My coaches, they were hyped up. They were like, yo, this kid did an extraordinary performance. So they said, okay, well, let's get your real first fight in. So then I went, they signed me up for this tournament called Bronze Gloves, which was a tournament for guys with less than 5 fights, okay? And I'm excited for it because this is my first time actually cutting weight, doing like the whole road trip and like the actual fight. Like, okay, this is gonna count on my record type of thing, you get what I mean? I wasn't stressed out about it, but I was excited about it because I was like, you have that mentality as a young fighter that, yo, like I'm on top of the world, I can beat anybody, and might as well, if I'm doing the sport, like I'm gonna do it like I'm the best, you get what I mean? Like I'm gonna go full out and nobody gonna stop me in this sport. The day of the event happens, Bronze Gloves. So my coaches wake me up early in the day because the weigh-in is at 8 in the morning, and I think the drive was around 3 hours. So we leave at around 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and we do this road trip. And the one person that pulled up with me, shout out to him, he had no fight, no nothing, was Thomas, the guy that I was training with every single day. So he watched my first fight that day, but he was there for the whole journey. Like he was there for my first fight. He was there seeing it all, like how I felt, everything. We got to the venue, we did my weigh-in, I understood, and I was like, damn, this is what it really feels like to be a fighter for the first time in my life. We were a night show, so we came in the morning. After we did the weigh-in, we had to wait like 6 hours. 6 goddamn hours. And we're just waiting, talking, and this is like the first time we ever like talked with our coach Ibrahim in like, let's say like at a setting that wasn't boxing, you know what I mean? So we got to really know who he was as a person and all that, and we realized how funny he was, realistically speaking. So that was a cool bonding moment between me and our coach. We get finally to like, let's say like a few minutes before my first fight. We start getting warmed up because there's like 5 fights left before our turn. And we're warming up and I'm visualizing the win. I'm visualizing the punches I'm gonna throw. I'm visualizing the sequences and everything. I'm visualizing it all. The moment happens where I walk out. They say my name, Divesh Patel, red corner. I go to the ring. I'm against this guy from Quebec. The fight starts. Like the ref comes up, gloves good. The groin guard's there. The headgear, all right, cool. We face each other off, me and the guy, and he says touch gloves. I touch his gloves. All right, perfect. Fight starts. I'm straight in his face, just like trying to get putting my strength on him. Like for the first time in my life, I'm like, this is my moment and I'm gonna take what's mine. Now mind you, this guy had 4 fights in his career already, and I had 0 fights other than the exhibition that was not on the record, obviously. So this guy, like, you gotta be, like, in retrospect, on paper, you're looking at him like, yo, this guy should be stepping on me. Especially that he had 4 fights, 4 wins. Like he has the confidence of everything in the world right now, you get what I mean? And I start stepping to him and punching him and punching him and punching him. And all of a sudden, I punch him in the shoulder, boom. And I popped his shoulder out and broke it. And fight's just over just like that, shoulder injury type of thing. In that moment, and till this day, I still never appreciate that win because I'm like, it didn't feel like a win. It finished too early. It finished like 30 seconds before, and I never felt like it was a win. But in retrospect, that was my first fight. That's how it went down. Like just kind of broke his shoulder, but I really showed that I still belonged that day. And a week later, I had my second fight against this guy with 20 pounds over me, and it was a test that my coach gave me because my coaches never gave me easy fights. Because the thing is with the sport of boxing is that a lot of people they want to build records and build this pretty little thing and build your fighter up. But sometimes boxing is like, it's like a life lesson. What happens when you're against a guy that's 20 pounds over than you or bigger than you and stronger than you and trying to intimidate you? How are you gonna respond to that? So that's what they wanted to find out. They wanted me to see if I was gonna pussy out or if I was gonna stand my ground, stay strong, and just be like, well, fuck you, I'm the better fighter, and I'm gonna show you that I am and I belong. Holy hell, against a guy 20 pounds over me, I worked his ass, man. You know, like I showed that I was coachable, that I had heart, and I really pushed the pace and everything. So then my coaches were super proud of me, super on my side and everything was going well. Then my third fight happens. Now, this is a pivotal thing in my career that I talk to about a lot to my clients and to my students and all this, is the losses. In a sport like boxing, boxing is a sport that you can go so high and just kind of get carried away with your ego and everything. But having a loss kind of puts you back ground zero and humbles you and whatnot. My first loss, you can't even really think of it as a loss, but it was still a loss, you know, like on paper and who got their hand raised and everything. But the lessons you get out of it, you can never take it as a loss. And I'll explain to you guys why. They signed me up like 2 weeks later against this guy who was 15 pounds heavier than me. Now, same type of scenario where I'm against a guy heavier than me, and they wanted to see if I was gonna step to this guy, if I was gonna pussy out, if I was gonna, like, you know, they wanted to see my mentality that day. It was against a guy with 8 fights. So this is my third fight, by the way, and I'm against a guy with 8 fights, bigger than me, stronger than me. And another factor was that it was at his home gym, and we were quote unquote like the main event, the people's main event, because that's the fight that everybody wants to see. The guy from the gym, the next up and whatnot that was grinding there that you were seeing against this random ass kid that he's so-called gonna whoop his ass. And the first 10 seconds of the fight, I get dropped like on my ass and everything. But I get up immediately. It was not like a crazy drop, but I felt it on my chin. And I definitely fell down, you get what I mean? And I got up and I was like, it don't matter. I'm in the fight now, you know? Like, it's not like saying I wasn't in the fight before. I was really in the fight. Like, this guy was never gonna step to me now, okay? And I remember finishing that fight, like the first round, back on his ass, like working, punching, non-stop. Like, I couldn't take the disrespect that just happened to me type of thing, you get what I mean? And the second round, I went back, went crazy on this guy again. And the third round, I went crazier again. But in all those moments that I showed how much heart and how much toughness that I had and how much grit I had, one thing that really stood out to me was in between the corners and in between all the chaos, quote unquote, was how I was able to listen to my coaches, Ibrahim and Herbie, during all of this, and I was able to like understand them in that moment. They were telling me sometimes, yo, like go to the body, man. Yo, work that jab a little bit. Jab, straight, all this, work your second attack. They used to tell me things like that in the corner during the fights, and I used to always just execute. And I used to respect them for that because it always worked every single time. And when that fight happened and I lost it at the end of it all, it didn't feel like a loss. Obviously on paper it was a loss, but you learn, first of all, you get rid of that loss. You feel kind of like the humbling down a little bit. You feel how it gets to get dropped, because a lot of people never feel how it gets to get dropped, but you also learn a lot about yourself. It's like, okay, like if somebody pushes me, like tries to push me down, like I'm gonna keep coming up and rising. And that's what happened that night. And then from that day on, in the gym, in life, anywhere, like nobody could ever step to me or disrespect me or anything like that, because I was able to overcome something physically and mentally that was super hard in front of people that I didn't know that was against me, you know what I mean? And that was the fight that honestly changed me as a person. I'm here just still grinding after all this at a different level, a different frequency, and I started getting sparrings from all sorts of people, national champions, provincial champions, and I keep racking up fights. Like we're talking, we get Brampton Cup, one of the biggest tournaments in Canada. I win that twice. We did the silver gloves. We did the golden gloves. Like we used to do all these big tournaments and whatnot, and we used to win them or go to the finals and do very successful things. And one of the things that got me to who I am as a coach today was when I went to Golden Gloves Provincials. I fought this guy with 70 fights who just turned 19 years old or 18 years old, around that ranges, and he was on the national team, and he was the guy that was next up, basically, that was getting scouted out since he was a kid, because he started the sport very, very young at the age of 8, 7 years old, around those ages. And I was a kid that started really taking boxing seriously at the age of 16. I get matched up with this kid in the provincials, and you're thinking like on paper, like I'm about to get my ass whooped type of thing. You know, I only had around 13 fights at that point, or 12 fights, and I beat him, and I schooled him, and I boxed him. It was through all the hard work I put in the gym. It was through the mentality that I had that nobody could ever disrespect me or tell me that they're better than me or could take what I thought was mine. You get what I mean? And I made it to the finals against this guy called Omar Gonzalez, who at that point I think had 40 fights, and he's provincial champion and did nationals. He's a great fighter. And he was also, if you guys look at the temp of the video of what my fights were, he was also a bigger man. He was coming down from around 140 pounds or 145 pounds all the way down to 125 to fight in this tournament, because it was an Olympic year. So people wanted to really make the Olympic team and really make it to the Olympics. So, cutting down the weight and doing all that shenanigan was like a big thing. And he was one of those guys. So I was against a guy that in size and strength, he had it over me. My coaches told me this one thing. They're like, yo, he may be bigger and fought like more experienced and bigger guys and whatnot and like looks tough, but at the end of the day, he's coming down a weight like way too big. Like, he's cutting too much weight in such a short amount of time. I was like, okay, you're gonna step to him. You're not gonna back down once. And that fight, that's exactly what happened. I did not back down, just kept going forward, kept punching, keep putting pressure on him. One of the things that I learned in that fight was that sometimes being the fighter doesn't win you fight. Sometimes you need to box. And this guy, Omar Gonzalez, it was a split decision loss on my end, but he picked the right moments to counter and exit and just kind of box me out and use the sport of boxing to his advantage. That's how he beat me that night. But I learned that night that sometimes the sport of boxing will always beat, let's say, the fighting aspect of it all. After that, it was a new life, because all of a sudden we made it to the finals, well, me, and we're qualified for nationals. Now, nationals was a big thing. It's the biggest tournament and the biggest level that you can get in Canada for boxing in general. But what's special was that it wasn't just only nationals, it was an Olympic year. So matter of fact, we made the Olympic trials. Now that's a big thing, because if you win Olympic trials, you make an Olympic team and you do the whole shenanigan and all that. My coach was like, okay, this is a big deal. We need to prepare you like fully right now, because at this point I only had 3 fights that were like deemed, let's say, of the highest caliber, which once was against the national champion itself, Victor Tremblay, who's now a pro boxer. Then the guy I talked to you guys, Jeremy Drapeau with 60 fights, and Omar Gonzalez, who was a big guy. I didn't have the experience yet, so my coach and me wanted me to get the experience. So I go against this guy, the Moroccan national champion, who was now training in Montreal at a gym called Club de Boxe de Corner with a great coach called Elio, and I fight him. I lose. So then I'm like, shit, this is the first time in my life I go to back-to-back losses. And I was like, fuck, this is not good at all. Like, leading up to Olympic trials, like losing another fight, that's not good at all. And it was one of those performances that was very emotional, because I really wanted to win, and he was just schooling me with some boxing. Then my third fight, my next fight coming in there, was a few days, like 3 days before my first fight at the Olympic trials. It was here at Hard Knox, and I was the main event. All my friends are here, my family is here, everybody's here. And I'm against this now national champion, Ayan Kokrar. Very good boxer. He had same thing, weight advantage over me and everything like that. So it was the same type of test where they wanted to see if like, okay, I'm against a bigger guy, but this time it's not just he's a bigger guy, but he got experience over me. And that emulated what I was against when I was in that Golden Gloves final. They wanted to see if I could overcome it this time. I remember letting emotions taking over. I wasn't calm under pressure. I let the people around me, the hype, me trying to perform, get to my head, and I performed very emotionally, and it showed in the fight, and I lost my 3rd fight in a row. Now, leading up to the Olympic trials, we're here with 3 losses in a row. You see my confidence at all-time low, and it was like, yo, like I'm not cut out for this sport anymore, you get what I mean? So we go to the Olympic trials, which was at the Olympic Stadium, and my first matchup was against the provincial champions from British Columbia. He's now a pro boxer himself, Wade Haverchuk. You would think that maybe the stress of the moment would get to me. I'm on 3 losses in a row, and I'm just like completely on the down. But part of me was like, it don't matter how many times you lose. Every fight is different. Every chapter of a book is different. Maybe the last chapter was bad, but it's a new chapter. We're gonna close that chapter. We're gonna go to the next one. Let's do something nice with this one. And that's exactly how I thought about it. And I had one of the best boxing performances of my life. All through my career, I always tried to box, but I never really boxed up until that moment. I used to always just kind of fight and always just kind of go with there with heart. I was always against guys that were trying to bully me or trying to be better than me and stronger and kind of intimidate me. So I always felt like I had something to prove to these guys in that moment. So I always used to fight and just be like punch, 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 like strength for strength, speed for speed all the single time. But this day, I decided I'm gonna box, I'm gonna stay calm, and that's what's gonna win me the fight, because I have the skills. I had the skills that just all the hours that I put in the gym. Like, we're talking like I'm training twice a day. I'm going to work trying to make my money at the same time. I'm sparring, I'm going to different gyms and doing all of this, yada, 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 and I'm doing my thing. So I trusted my work, and I did this fight, exceptional fight. And I was coached by this guy called Elio in that moment, and he helped me out, and he just coached me throughout the whole time. And I understood that, wow, like boxing, like this is boxing. This is my first revelation in my life that I could truly box and not only just fight. When I won that fight, I was in like such a high that the next fight I was against one of my friends, Delise, and I was sparring him leading up to the Olympic trials, and I kind of had like a confidence boost a little bit because I felt that he was always better than me in sparring and whatnot. So when I ended up fighting him in a real fight, that stress took over me. And he beat me that night, but it was always a mental game in my head because I felt that maybe if I didn't have that going in my head, maybe the fight would have been different and maybe I would have performed differently, you know what I mean? But you cannot go back into the past and change what happened, but it's lessons that you learn. From there, a lot of opportunities opened for my door because when I boxed super well at the Olympic trials, the Olympic team put me on their radar and I started getting invitations for training camps, under 23 assessment camps, national team, the future of boxing training camps. And I used to spar this guy called Justin Perrin, a national champion. I used to spar Victor Tremblay, a national champion. I used to spar all sorts of people at the Olympic Stadium after this tournament. So I used to perform every single time. I used to be coachable. I used to be curious about the sport. I used to ask mad questions every single time. These were things that were important for me to develop as a human, as a boxer. Like that experience really changed me for who I am today and in general. Like you cannot take that away from me because I learned what it took to be a part of that 0.01% of athletes in a certain sport. Like, I met guys like Wyatt Sanford, the bronze medalist. I met the actual coaches that developed this guy and that was going to these world tournaments, finding guys that were gold medalists in the Olympics and whatnot. You're just there like, it's crazy how the world can be small and you're just right next to them and you feel like maybe you don't belong, but they feel like you belong in some ways. I just kept learning and kept grinding with the Olympic team for a year. So I was on Team Olympic B at that point. Trying to just make that Team A because that was the goal at that point. You want to make it to the Worlds, you want to make it to all the shenanigans. But then this is where something switched in my head where I was like, I had a lot of things that I couldn't balance in my life when it came to school, when it came to family life, when it came to boxing in general and my friends. I couldn't balance it all. It was very hard to juggle everything at once. And boxing took a big hit on it in terms of performance, in terms of recovery, in terms of what I wanted in the sport. I was kind of going through the motions of it all. Sometimes in a sport, you get in these highs and you feel like you want to learn, and you keep progressing, but then you get to this moment where you plateau. And when you plateau, it's hard to get over that plateau. And I was in that plateau for a very long time. I just couldn't get over that hump. It could be over a lot of things, it could be over the fact that I had a lot of things I was juggling and I couldn't juggle the sport of boxing. I couldn't balance everything else that came with it. But a big portion of it came from the fact that I was seeing these Olympic athletes, how they were training, what they were sacrificing, and what they were doing to achieve just a certain, just a 0.0001% better. And I was like, I couldn't think of myself sacrificing the same things as them. And I think that's what started pushing me into more coaching people and becoming the coach that I am, because I had a lot of humility and I was very humble with the way that I conduct myself as a coach and I conduct myself as a human. I never let ego take over, because ego can be a good thing to become the best, but it can also be something that pushes you away from people. And I never wanted to be someone that pushes people away. I always wanted to gravitate towards people and help people out and just be someone that could just help. And I felt that coaching was something that was really made for me and whatnot. So I started coaching at the schools were near my house, or the schools that I were actually attending, the CJ that I was attending, the high school that I went to when I was a teenager, and I started giving boxing classes from there. And I started really enjoying the joy that I was giving to people and just the reward that I was getting from giving these classes. I felt that when I was fighting, no one was benefiting from it. Like if I want to fight, it was like, okay, like you want to fight, like that, kudos to you. I'm happy for you, and I get to tell my friends about it or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it wasn't like I wasn't like, other than inspiring people maybe, I wasn't giving anything to the person directly. And I wanted to be a person that wanted to give things directly to people and like give something consistently, you know? And I felt that when I was coaching and helping people out, I was giving that to people, whether it was giving them self-confidence, giving them the strength to defend themselves, just giving them better mobility, better like balance and all that. It made me feel happy about doing coaching. I remember I was coaching at the same time that I was fighting. So it was also, then I started balancing that. You know, I was balancing the school, I was balancing life, I was balancing coaching and fighting. So then I had, in the same category, I had two different things. And I knew that I liked coaching more, but I was never gonna stop fighting. I kept fighting and I kept winning or losing, like kind of flip-flopping between each other. All of a sudden, one day my coach, he notices after I fought the Nationals and lost against this guy called Isaiah Rock, he knows that I was very overtrained or very tired and all that. So he told me like, yo, like take 1 month off. So I took 1 month off, I came back and I was still fatigued and still tired, but I wasn't mentally there anymore. So then he told me, okay, let's go for a sparring. So I went to go spar the national champion, Alexis Turbide, who I had fought previously. I did a sparring and it was a good sparring, but one thing that he noticed was that I wasn't there mentally to go win or kill or anything like that. I was just there to box and kind of survive. That day, we met each other at night at like a pizza store, and he just told me like, yo, I want you to stop fighting because it's something that is gonna damage you long term, mentally, physically, and you're someone I care for, and I don't want to have that on my conscience. That's what my coach told me. I just needed to hear that from someone because me mentally, I was already out of the sport in terms of a fighter because I really like coaching way more. Hearing that from someone you respect, I was like, yo, I'm going full blast into coaching and I'm helping others. So that's when I started giving privates, really getting better at giving kids classes, just kind of teaching everybody that I could here in Montreal. So I started expanding like to schools, started reaching out to all these different schools to kind of teach them because I just wanted to teach. I just wanted to coach everybody. That's who I am today. So this is the person that you guys see on the social medias and you wonder, okay, how did you just came out of nowhere on Instagram, on YouTube, or on TikTok? Like, this is who I am. From karate to starting boxing in a little school to actually boxing here at Hard Knox and getting fights and really grinding it out and really pushing myself in what I wanted to do to who I am today as a coach. So all the experiences that I learned throughout my fight career, throughout my life, built me to who I am today. And the way I teach, you guys can see that's how it is through my fight experience. So for 22 years, it's short, but I got another 22 years of still learning and still getting more life lessons and keep being curious about life and keep being a student of the game in sports, especially in the sport of boxing and life and just in the people I meet. And I hope that so far that I helped a lot of you guys at home that I haven't even met in person. I'm just kind of like seeing, like not seeing you guys, but you guys are seeing me, but I'm not seeing y'all through your phones or through your computers and all this. From the United States, from India, from Canada, from Montreal right here, from the UK, from anywhere y'all from. I hope that you guys are learning from my videos, and I hope that this story of who I am gets you guys to understand who I am more, as not only as a person, not only as a boxing coach, but just me. This is me, man. You get what I mean? So if you guys want to learn more, just want to be part of the journey, feel free to subscribe. And this is my story.